Hi there. Hope you're doing well today. Welcome back to Go Follow Yeshua, otherwise known as the Acts 15 podcast.
That's right.
And what we're doing is discussing the Torah or the Law of Moses because it instructs us in the ways of wisdom and covenant faithfulness to God. And our Savior Yeshua, or Jesus Christ, was perfect in keeping the Torah, and he instructed all of his followers to do likewise. And this is why he obtained perfect wisdom and covenant faithfulness, because he actually kept or preserved or guarded or cultivated Torah. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to learn the roots and foundation of our faith and to be like our Savior. So,
I like that you said faithfulness
mhm.
because that really is, I think, the proper way to think of faith. A lot of times we think of faith as just a belief, like an intellectual assent or something. We accept some sort of propositions that the scriptures put forward, but the scriptural meaning of faith is more like faithfulness.
Yeah,
If you have faith, then it means you are faithful, which means that you stick to it, like through thick and thin, right? Good and bad. Through it's like a marriage, and when we learn about and practice being faithful to the covenant and keeping the commandments, it really is us working on our marriage with the Lord.
absolutely.
Like we are the bride, and Jesus says, if you love me as a husband, right? If you love me, keep my commandments.
Countless times in the Book of Mormon and New Testament, Old Testament.
So we are your marriage counselors for the evening. We're gonna work on our marriage with the Lord. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And we've mentioned it before, but the Hebrew word for faith is emuna. And emuna means to support. Like literally, there's physical imagery, like a pillar supporting a building, or when Aaron, and I always forget his
For
name, Aaron and Hur supported Moses' arms when he had to keep his arms up so that the children of Israel could keep winning the battle. The word is emuna, which we translate as faith. So there is this connotation of doing something, being faithful. Faith is faithfulness. And that was James's whole argument in the New Testament. There were those who were misunderstanding Paul, and they were, conflating faith with just simple intellectual assent or belief when true faith is faithfulness. My name is Elior. I run the Doctrine of Christ and Hebraic Restoration YouTube channel. And
and I'm Joshua Erickson. I'm the secretary for the Zarahemla Foundation, and Zarahemla Foundation loves to teach people and encourage people to appreciate the Hebraic roots of our faith. Much like the the Hebraic Restoration channel as well. And there's other places where you can get this kind of stuff too. But so we're glad that you're joining us. And we have my wife, Melissa. And what do you
Ye-
do?
so many things. I am a mother, a grandmother, a wife, a sister, a daughter,
She is
all the
a
things.
support.
I am a support.
Yeah, in many
I
ways.
feel very supported right now.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, we're going to talk about the next Torah portion. Elior is going to
absolutely.
lead this.
Yep. We're going to start in Genesis 37 today. Today, we're going to talk about Joseph, who is a very important figure in Scripture, and especially Latter-day Saint thought in Scripture. Um, so let's start off with a narrative.
Yeah.
Unless,
Well, I just wanted to mention this Torah portion is called Vayeshev. And if you remember, if you remember or you weren't here, you have to look at the last podcast. But anytime in Hebrew where there's that vaya at the beginning of a word, it basically means and it came to pass. Shev means to like sit or rest, but also to dwell. And so the opening line of the portion is Genesis chapter 37, verse 1. And Jacob dwelt. So dwelt like he like settled. So that's the Shev. So, but if you're like literally translating the Hebrew, it would say, and it came to pass, Jacob dwelt in the land.
excellent. Well, yeah, it opens up, and they're dwelling in the land, and it mentions how they are strangers in the land, which I love because this is not Shem's land, right? Um, the sons of Noah were each given allotted lands to inhabit, and Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are descendants of Shem, and they are promised Canaan, which is not Shem's inheritance, but it is now becoming Shem's inheritance in a way because the Lord has promised Canaan to Abraham and his seed, or to specifically, Abraham, Isaac, and
Yeah.
Jacob.
There are actually some traditions that that Canaan actually took some of Shem's land.
Okay.
Mm.
So a little bit spicy.
Yeah.
That, yeah,
Among other things.
Yeah.
that yeah, that like the land of Canaan was actually part of Shem's inheritance, but Canaan kind of like took that unrighteously, and so and then of course we know that there's like other righteousness problems that lead to the Canaanites getting swept out later. But
Absolutely. Yeah, and I love it mentions how they're strangers. Later on, when we get into the law portion of the Torah, where it's enumerating all of the different laws and instructions, it repeatedly emphasizes the importance to be good to the immigrant or the stranger in your land. And I just love this because Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are strangers in this land, and so therefore Israel must be good to the stranger.
yeah, amen.
And that's just who God is. God loves his most vulnerable children so much, widows, orphans, women in general, strangers, that kind of thing. And that really comes through
It's
in
a
Torah.
it's a super repeated theme
Yeah,
over and
absolutely.
over.
Over
Yeah.
and over. Yeah, Torah is amazing. But so in the next verse, after this very first verse, Joseph goes out and sees his brethren,
Yeah.
some of his brethren, and it says he brings an evil report. And the way I interpreted this was he was kind of he brings an evil report back to his father Jacob, who has been renamed Israel. And the way I interpreted this was, they're maybe not acting right, and Joseph is kind of telling his father what's going on. Is that how
Yeah,
you
right.
understand
It's
it?
a little snitch.
Yeah, he's being a snitch, but I don't want to. I don't
I
think.
don't think they were where they were supposed to be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are traditions that they were like being wicked, in
Okay.
various ways or something. But yeah, but he's telling on his
He's telling on his
and
brothers.
it adds to their general dislike of him,
Yeah,
right? Which is apparent in the next few verses, right?
absolutely.
Obviously.
Yeah. So Joseph is seems to be favored.
He's young though.
He's young. He's
It actually
17.
mentions his age, which is a little unusual to
Yeah.
mention an age of a person like, well, yeah, especially it is kind of an unusual thing. We don't have the ages of the other brothers at all, right? So, but we know Joseph is a young man.
He's 17 years old at this time. He's favored by his father Jacob.
He's the son of Jacob's old age.
He's a son of Jacob's old
Hmm.
age. Exactly. It's funny. Uh, Lehi's son Joseph is also a son of his old age.
Hmm,
So
interesting.
interesting connection.
I want to say one more thing about
Yeah.
that. Verse 2 says, these are the generations of Jacob.
Hmm.
Joseph being 17 years old. You expect that it's going to like list all the generations, but it only says Joseph.
Hmm.
And basically like showing that Joseph is like the prime example of his father's son. He is
Hmm.
he is he is the birthright son.
Right.
And he's his father's son in many ways. Jacob was a dreamer, right?
Yeah.
He had the right
Letter.
yeah, right. He had the famous dreams. And we're going to see Joseph is like takes after his father in that way. Like
Yeah.
he's the dreamer also in the family. There's other similarities too, right? They were both born from mothers who had like long infertility
Mm.
and both hated by their brothers,
Yeah.
right? And so yeah, so Joseph is Jacob's like heir, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, he's favored. He's Jacob's heir, just as Jacob was Isaac's heir and Isaac was Abraham's heir. Um, he has a coat of many colors. All of us are familiar with this, right? This
Yeah.
is one of those like eternal symbols that everybody knows, sort of. So
Thank you to Donny Osmond.
yeah, absolutely. In the tech,
I close my eyes,
Yeah, I've never
drew back the
I've never seen it.
curtains. Oh,
really,
whoa.
oh, I shouldn't say that. We watched it in middle school, so
It's,
I've seen it.
it's pretty good.
Um,
Very catchy.
showcasing that Technicolor technology, right?
Yeah.
So what's interesting is this coat of many colors is actually kind of a bad translation of the Hebrew.
Yeah.
The most accurate translation is a tunic of wrists or a tunic of palms. And I want you to think about the wrist and the
And palm,
palm,
not meaning like a date palm, but like
Like the
a
like the
palm.
palm of your
palm of your
hand.
hand palm.
So
Yeah.
think about the wrist and the palm, especially in a temple context and in a Jesus context. And it's pretty amazing. And a coat with sleeves extending to the wrists would have been a little bit unusual at this time. So again, a more proper translation is tunic of wrists or tunic of palms. But I think there's still some symbolism in I don't want to call it a mistranslation, but a less good
Alternate.
translation, an alternate translation of many colors. Do you want to go into
Yeah.
that
Well,
with the
yeah,
white?
this is what my dad would always say is that, well, I mean, I believe that this coat that was given to him, the coat of many colors, it actually is the same Hebrew word. It's ketonet, I
Hmm.
think, which is the same Hebrew word as the coat of skins that was made for Adam and Eve when they left the garden.
Hmm.
And we've talked about on this podcast before about how the garment of Adam was handed down to Noah, and like, of course, that was a blessing to him and enabled him to interact with the animals because they would become docile
Hmm.
when he was wearing that coat. And then Ham steals the coat, okay, and that's part of the crime that Ham commits. And then it's passed down to Ham's descendants to Nimrod. But then Esau kills Nimrod, takes it back to like the descendants of Shem, sells it to Jacob. Jacob has it when he's like shepherding Laban's flocks and all of that.
Hmm.
And then now Jacob actually passes on this coat to his son Joseph.
And would definitely cause his brothers to hate him.
Yeah, and so now when we're thinking of temple imagery and things, of course, the white, like white light or white things, are actually a combination of all the colors.
Yep.
And so, so one possible way to understand this coat of many colors is that this is a way of saying, like an idiomatic way of saying it was a white garment
A white robe.
that went all the way down to his wrists or palms.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And another way of looking at it, the word ketonet is also the same word for the high priest's robe.
Yes.
And the high priest's robe has strands on it of several different colors:
Yeah.
blue, scarlet, purple,
Gold and
gold,
white.
and white. So a lot of different connections here with this tunic of wrists or coat of many colors. And even if this coat was not Adam's garment handed down, it's still a representation that Joseph, is receiving a special sort of priesthood inheritance, which would naturally cause envy among his brothers.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, so again, it mentions the coat. So his brothers hate him, it says in the text after this. And then Joseph tells them about a dream he had.
Just just a couple of dreams.
It's such a young man thing to do.
Bravado,
Like,
right? Yeah.
there's no couching it. There's no like softening the blow.
No, his brothers don't like him. And then he tells them a dream he had where they're gathering sheaves in the field and all of their sheaves bow to his sheaf. So yeah, just putting fuel in the fire. And then he has a really famous dream, a cosmic dream, where in his dream, his father is likened unto the sun, his mother is likened unto the moon, and him and all his brothers are likened unto stars, and sort of the sun, the moon, and all his brothers' stars, um, like bow to his star, or what is it? What's the wording on that?
Obeisance.
Yeah, obeisance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they pay obeisance
obeisance.
to his
Yeah,
star.
three different pronunciations.
Yes. And so I want to make a few connections here with this dream. The one, Abraham is promised that his seed will be as the stars of heaven. Two, in ancient Hebrew thought, the B'nai Elohim, or the gods, the Most High God and all the lesser gods, are likened unto stars. So this is like signifying that uh, Jacob and his family are sort of among the B'nai Elohim in some way. You know, whether that be in the pre-existence or in the next life, there's some cosmic divine imagery here. And I want to make a connection to Revelation 12. I know there's been several different interpretations of that, and there's astronomic imagery, but in Revelation 12, it describes a woman clothed in the sun and the moon and the stars. And that woman is often understood to represent, you know, the bride of God, the church. But the sun, the moon, and the stars are clearly also a representation of the house of Israel. So that the God's bride is not only the church, but especially the house of Israel. And those who truly do belong to his church, who have truly repented, are numbered with the house of Israel. So, a couple of connections there with that dream. Any thoughts?
I do have one.
Okay.
Yeah. It's interesting that he has the dream where the sun and the moon and the stars, which are kind of are interpreted to be his father, his mother, and his brothers. But uh, Jacob says, I think Jacob knew that Joseph was unliked,
Hmm.
and so I think Jacob's response is kind of trying to diffuse the tension that's probably this sharing this dream has created. So he says, "Shall I and thy mother indeed bow down to you?" Right, and your brother,
Mm,
but his mother's dead;
right.
she's not there. So he's kind of like mocking a little bit, like to show everybody like this is just it's just a ridiculous dream. Like don't like so he kind of mocks it. But then it says, but his father observed the sayings.
Yeah, right.
So his father's like,
Yeah,
like I'm gonna like openly mock it to like try to
pressure
ease,
release.
yeah, release the pressure.
Yep.
Yeah, but this is like
I'm gonna
a
ponder
serious
this.
dream. Yeah,
His father was a dreamer. He knew.
right.
He knew when somebody had the gift.
Yeah.
And you know, he felt the way he did about Joseph. Um, so at this point, Israel, like the family, the house of Israel, the house of Jacob, is in possession of Shechem, which we discussed in last portion, because they went and a couple of Jacob's boys went and killed all the inhabitants of Shechem.
Simeon and Levi gave him the sword.
Yep, and so now they possess it. It's theirs now.
Yeah.
So Joseph goes to find his brethren who made their way to Shechem to feed the flocks. And because remember, they were nomadic and they were pastoral, and in the Near East, sometimes pasture is hard to come by. So you're kind of allowing the sheep to graze over very long distances for several days at a time.
And like Utah.
Kind of like Utah, if you've ever been there. So Joseph goes to find his brethren in Shechem, and Joseph meets a man there who says, "Your brothers were here, but they went."
Certain man.
Yeah, a certain man.
No, see, this is angelic.
Yeah, there you go, a certain man. There is some angelic connotations
Yeah.
or hints right here.
A certain man that was wandering in the field.
All right, all right. I didn't pick up on that when I read, so that's good stuff. Um, so this certain man, this maybe this messenger, tells Joseph that his brothers have gone to Dothan.
Yeah.
Looks like Dothan, but you pronounce it
Dothan.
Dothan, but it's Dothan.
Yeah.
So they see Joseph coming from afar, and they conspire to kill him here and cast him into a pit. saying that like a wild beast had killed him. But Reuben, to his credit, Reuben saves Joseph's life. He says, let's not kill him and cast his body into a pit. Let's just throw him into a pit without killing him. And the intent was Reuben's intent in the scripture was to deliver Joseph back to his father Jacob. So to cast him into the pit to kind of diffuse the anger and then, quietly bring Joseph back to his father Jacob, to retrieve Joseph from the pit. And by the way, I am using the Joseph Smith translation, also known as the inspired version. So if something contradicts the KJV, that's why. So they strip Joseph of his coat and then they cast him into the pit.
Yeah.
Anything to say on that?
I will say that, of course, and I don't know if you're going to get into this, but there are a lot of types and shadows, like that Joseph represents Messiah in
Mhm.
many ways, and this is one of them. Interestingly, there's actually some early Christian traditions that that when Jesus was brought before the Sanhedrin, or or maybe before the high priest before that, but he was that he was like put down in a pit to like hold
Mm.
him while the priests, like the high priest, assembled. The, not the high priest, but the Sanhedrin assembled, and this was like a foreshadowing of that. Interestingly, in our own Doctrine and Covenants, I don't have it's the chapter where Joseph is being told that his suffering is not as great as the Savior's. Okay, I found it in the Doctrine and Covenants, section 122. Thank you, Melissa, for helping me with that. And it's just listing tribulations and things and of Joseph. And it says in verse 7, if thou shouldst be cast into a pit or into the hands of murderers, etc., um, then all these things are for your experience, and it says the Son of Man hath descended below them all. Like, or that, in other
Mm.
words, I have experienced all of these things, is what the Doctrine and Covenants is saying. And so this is actually echoed in like early Christian traditions. It's not in the New Testament actually,
Mhm.
um, but it is. This is like a foreshadowing, a prophetic foreshadowing that Joseph,
Yeah.
what's happening to Joseph here.
Wow.
So in the New Testament, in it's my grandfather's scriptures that I have, and he was Matthew 27:28, and this is what we've been talking about. And the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the common hall and gathered unto him the whole band of soldiers. This is verse 27, and then 28, and they stripped him and put on him a scarlet robe.
So stripping his robe again is a
Yeah, it's a parallelism
yeah.
between Joseph and Christ.
All right. Absolutely. Yeah. So they throw Joseph into the pit, which was, a foreshadowing of Christ and even Joseph Smith, right, to a degree. And so they notice some Ishmaelite merchants, like a caravan of Ishmaelites afar off. And Judah wants to sell Joseph to the caravan instead of kill him
Yeah.
because, quote, he is our brother and our flesh. So
Dang
like,
it.
So here is
If Reuben and Judah had actually gotten together and had a conversation, this might have ended a
yeah,
little
yes,
differently.
exactly.
here's another foreshadowing. So Judah in Greek, I guess, is
Judas.
Judas. Yeah. And
Mm.
Judas sells Jesus, right, for 30 pieces. But
Yeah, there's a
here,
difference here.
yeah.
Yes, it's
Yep.
But here Judah
20
is
pieces.
selling, says, let's sell him for 20 pieces.
They sell them for 20 pieces. Real quick, before we get to that, um, so they notice this Ishmaelite caravan. Judah's like, let's sell him instead. He obviously doesn't know about Reuben's plan to preserve Joseph and bring him back to dad. But then it says they sell him to a Midianite caravan. So, apparently there were different caravans passing through, and they actually sell him to a Midianite caravan. And as we said, they sell him for 20 shekels or 20 pieces of silver.
Mhm.
And what's interesting is what is the price of a slave in Torah? It's
It was
30.
30. Yeah.
30. Yeshua was sold for the price of a slave. Joseph is sold for less than the price of a slave.
less. So it was like they're just like showing their contempt
Yeah,
and how little they valued him.
right, right.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, there's interesting. One of the Jewish, this is a Jewish tradition, it's not in the scriptures, but on the Day of Atonement, so Yom Kippur, that one of the things, like the scripture says, on the Day of Atonement, you're supposed to fast and afflict your soul generally. And one of the things that the rabbis say you should do to afflict your soul as like part of our like national repentance is to avoid wearing leather shoes.
Hmm.
You're not supposed to have comfortable shoes. Leather shoes is what the ancient rabbis said. So, and why is that? Um, well, actually, if you take the 20, there's 10 brothers. Benjamin's at home still. So there's 10 brothers. They sell him for 20 pieces. That's 2 pieces of silver a piece, which is the price of a pair of shoes.
Are you serious?
So listen, the now we talked about this a little before, but these Torah portions they have associated portions in the prophets,
Hmm.
and the associated portion, the Haftarah of this, is in the book of Amos. And Amos chapter 2, verse 6 is where the Haftarah, the prophet portion starts, the corresponding, and it starts like this. Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Israel, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they sold the righteous for silver, and the poor for a pair of shoes.
Oh man, what a crazy connection. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it goes on, but it talks about like the wickedness of Israel, like oppressing the poor and the righteous, and this is like just tied directly to this crime that the sons of Jacob committed, and so the Jews, at least in part, avoid wearing comfortable shoes as like remembrance, not necessarily repentance because they didn't participate, but for our ancestors remembering the evil that they did in selling their brother Joseph. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, well, so Reuben goes back to the pit to retrieve his brother to take him back to dad. Yeah. Um, and he finds Joseph gone, or he sees that Joseph is gone, and he rends his garments, it says. And this is what they would do in the ancient Near East, especially or more especially in the Hebraic tradition. When you're in a period of mourning, when something really terrible has happened, you grab your garment and you tear it in half. And so that's what Reuben is doing here. This is a he Reuben realizes how terrible this is,
It's bad.
to his credit, right? And so what they do, as we all know, they dip his coat in goat blood and they bring it back to Father Jacob, who thinks Joseph is dead. Um, and there's a connection here in the Book of Mormon. Mind if I read that real
Yeah,
quick?
we should do it because
Moroni has sort of some commentary on this, or he likens this scenario unto their situation. Captain Moroni, that is. Okay, this is Alma 46, verse 23. Actually, verse 22. Now this was the covenant which they made, and they cast their garments at the feet of Moroni, saying, We covenant with our God that we shall be destroyed, even as our brethren in the land northward, if we shall fall into transgression. Yea, he may cast us at the feet of our enemies, even as we have cast our garments at thy feet to be trodden under foot, if we shall fall into transgression. Moroni said unto them, Behold, we are a remnant of the seed of Jacob. Yea, we are a remnant of the seed of Joseph, whose coat was rent by his brethren into many pieces. Yea, and now behold, let us remember to keep the commandments of God, or our garments shall be rent by our brethren, and we be cast into prison, or be sold, or be slain. Yea, let us preserve our liberty as a remnant of Joseph. Yea, let us remember the words of Jacob before his death. For behold, he saw that a part of the remnant of the coat of Joseph was preserved and had not decayed. And he said, Even as this remnant of garment, um, yeah, even as this remnant of garment of my son hath been preserved, so shall a remnant of the seed of my son be preserved by the hand of God, and be taken unto himself, while the remainder of the seed of Joseph shall perish, even as the remnant of his garment.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of amazing things here. One, uh, they they tear their own garments and trample them. And it said there that Joseph's brothers tore his coat into many pieces, but Genesis doesn't say that.
It just say they took a piece of his garment.
No, it says
Yeah.
no. It just says verse 30. Well, I don't know. Does the GST say something different? Like verse 31.
No, actually, it doesn't
It
even
says
say
they
that.
took the coat and dipped it in some blood.
So it doesn't mention them tearing his garment to pieces.
Right.
But
Yeah.
Moroni has a tradition on the brass plates or something
Yeah, right.
that mentioned, well, it had to have been the brass plates.
Correct.
Moroni has a tradition, a textual tradition that mentions his coat being torn into many pieces.
Yeah. Now listen. So Jasher, you know, read you what Jasher said.
Jasher, always coming through.
Okay, this is Jasher, chapter 43, verse 13. And they, the brothers, hastened and took Joseph's coat and tore it. And they killed the kid of the goats and dipped the coat in the blood of the kid and then trampled it in the dust. See, this is what Moroni said too, like, will be trampled. Well,
Mhm.
so both of these things that happened to Joseph's coat, they're like drawing on this, like when they're making their covenant. Trampled it in the dust, and then they sent the coat to their father Jacob by the hand of Naphtali. So,
There you go.
anyway,
So,
it's pretty cool.
yeah, it's interesting that Moroni has
Amazing detail.
the brass plates, I wish we had those. So maybe
Right.
someday. But there's obviously a tradition here that includes content that was later
Outside of our
found.
Yeah.
canon.
It's outside of our canon, and it was preserved in Jasher, so that's pretty amazing.
I will say just one more thing. It's interesting that it was a kid, which is a baby goat,
A goat.
kid of the goat. Yeah. So this just ties it to the Day of Atonement
Hmm.
symbolism again, right?
Mhm.
And so one goat gets killed, and then and Joseph gets like sent away into the wilderness. So it's kind of
Oh
like this
yeah,
echo of that, you know.
Yeah.
right.
Actually, Jasher actually mentions it. The Genesis doesn't, but Jasher actually also doesn't say Yom Kippur, but it says it was at the turning of the year,
Oh,
which is a biblical phrase talking about the fall equinox. That's the turning of the year,
mm.
and that's when Yom Kippur is around
So
that time.
again, if you didn't know, on Yom Kippur or the Day of Atonement, which is the holiest day of the year in the scriptures, the high priest would sacrifice a goat to expiate the sins of all Israel. And then they would release one. They would impute the sins of the people upon a goat and release it into the wilderness to rid the land and the sanctuary of the sins.
Right.
And so here again,
So
as you
this is like a perverted, inverted Yom Kippur though, because they're actually sending away the righteous and
oh,
killing the other one to commit sin with, you know?
yeah,
So
right.
instead of like forgiving sin, like it's
Yeah.
bad, right?
So Joseph, yeah, Joseph is likened unto a goat. In
Right.
the symbolism kind of portrays him that way into the Day of Atonement, one of the goats on the Day of Atonement. But so Jacob mourns, it says, and he refuses to be comforted.
Well, let's talk about maybe why.
Yeah.
Ooh,
So if this is the coat
the
that
coat.
the coat that's been inherited, we know there's something attached to that with the calming of animals. So for the sons to go to their father and tell him,
Claimed a wild animal.
yeah. And so in verse 33, it says that Jacob Israel knew it and said, "This is my son's coat. An evil beast hath devoured him. Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces." Now, the Hebrew from that, an evil beast, is a living evil.
Mm.
It's like the literal Hebrew.
That's the
A
literal
living
Hebrew,
evil.
living evil.
As opposed to a wild beast.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so if this is indeed the coat, then there's no way that a wild beast would have devoured Joseph
Yeah.
because that coat would have calmed
No one wearing that
Yeah,
coat would be
knowing wearing
devoured
that coat would be devoured.
by a wild beast of any kind.
So it had to be a different type of an evil.
Interesting.
And he knows that his other sons
Didn't
hate their
like him.
brother.
Yeah. So I mean, that's reason to mourn, right?
My
Yeah,
sons
that's
have.
reason to mourn because you know,
And you know something's wrong. Like all the brothers are there. It's like,
and nobody witnessed anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. And the
Yeah.
fact that he refuses to be comforted, it's just so telling to me that he just is really in this stuck place of he knows his other children have killed their brother.
Have committed one of the worst transgressions.
Yes, and he already has Simeon and Levi who've committed, pretty rough stuff.
now I'm going to say something else about
And
this.
and Reuben.
Well, yeah, that's a whole different
Yeah.
yuck.
A whole different ball of wax.
Now, Hugh Nibley has, I have I'll just paraphrase, but he said there's some ancient documents or ancient traditions that say that the coat was actually a coat of many marks,
Hmm.
and that the co and that later on we find out that Jacob is blind, but the tradition is that even at this point that he was basically blind, and so they hand him the coat, and he actually feels it, and he can feel the there's three marks in it, and he feels the three marks and knows that it's the coat. And we're talking about temple imagery here, right?
Hmm.
And interesting, the Targum, the Jerusalem Targum actually says something similar. Says that he knew that it was Jacob's coat, but also knew that he wasn't dead, but still had reason to mourn. Okay, it says, and he discerned it and said, "It is my son's garment, yet a wild beast has not devoured him.
Wow.
Neither is my son Joseph slain, but I see by the spirit of the sanctuary that an evil woman stands against him."
Oh.
And Jacob rent his clothes and wrapped in sackcloth and mourned for his son many days.
This whole narrative is tough.
I know, it makes me feel a little bit better that he knows his son isn't dead.
But the fact that that Targum supports what you were saying about that,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Yep. So again, Jacob refuses to be comforted, and Joseph is sold to Potiphar, an Egyptian man. The Midianites sell him to Potiphar,
An officer of Potiphar.
an officer of
Yeah,
Potiphar. That's right.
yeah. It,
So, is there anything to say before we switch to a different narrative for Genesis 38?
Observe Pharaoh.
I will say a couple of things about the Hebrew there behind officer. There's a couple of interesting things. It says the King James says an officer Potiphar was an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard.
All right.
The officer, the word officer there is actually eunuch.
Okay.
So Potiphar was probably unarmed, as they say.
Why does he have a wife then?
I don't know. I mean, that's maybe like that's like official protocol or something. I don't know. But also captain of the guard. Some other translations and the Targums actually support this, that he was the head executioner, like he was Pharaoh's
He
executioner.
was the guy wearing the
Yeah, he put the hood on,
Wow.
yeah,
battle axe or whatever.
yeah, giant battle axe.
Anyway, just
Okay.
so
Well, let's move on. Let's switch let's just
The
change
narrative
narratives.
this is
completely
yeah.
Yeah.
flips.
Yeah, totally. There's this extra story that's like put in the middle of Joseph's narrative,
Yeah.
right?
I'm guessing it was the best place to put it, right? Because you got to have there's a reason they include these genealogies and these
Yeah.
stories, and it seems like probably the best place. But so uh
Jasher actually doesn't have this story at
oh,
all.
crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Plugged in at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
Judah takes Shua, a Canaanite woman, to wife, and with Shua he sires Er and Onan. And Er grows up. He takes a wife for Er named Tamar, and Er is destroyed by God for his wickedness. Right? So Judah commands Onan to take Tamar to wife, to raise up seed to Er. And this is one of those many echoes of Torah that come before the law is given on
Yeah.
Mount Sinai.
There's
Mhm.
echoes before it was spoken.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's an echo,
Supposedly.
supposedly, right? It's an echo of the levirate law,
Mhm.
which is when your brother dies, and if he has not had any sons, you were to take his wife, even as a plural wife, and raise up seed to your brother.
Yeah,
Right.
the oldest son would be the brother's son, and
Right.
it maintains inheritances and it takes care of the widow.
Okay. Well, Onan, he has some reservations about this idea, namely that he plans on marrying her,
Mhm.
but not performing the marriage duty or marital intimacy. Uh,
Well, marital intimacy, but not pregnancy. Right.
yeah, he plans on skipping the impregnation. All right.
Right.
And you can make the connection there.
Yeah.
But so he
Which is the wickedness.
it's wrong for a few different reasons. One, because he's neglecting his duty to his deceased brother and to his wife, Tamar, his new wife. And two, it's just using Tamar. Like
Right.
without any reproduction. It's kind of is really selfish here. So because of this, and the reason Onan doesn't want to raise up seed to his brother is because those children won't be his seed. So he's kind of being selfish about it, you know.
Yeah. And
Um,
it's probably it doesn't we can infer this, but it's probably because he has his own wife
right.
and his own children.
Exactly.
Because if he didn't have a wife, and then what then those children that he had with her, uh they basically he would just combine his and his brother's inheritance.
Yeah.
And if he
Right,
only had the one wife and the children from her, then they would just get like this double inheritance.
Right.
right. He's
Tamar,
keeping the eldest, which is a double portion inheritance for himself and his own lineage.
right.
If that's, we're inferring.
Yeah,
Right.
Tamar is likely a plural wife, and he's not doing his duty here, and so the Lord smites him. So Judah has two sons from Shua,
Yeah.
smitten by the Lord now. And so because of this, Judah tells Tamar to go wait at her father's house as a widow until Judah's young son, Shelah, is old enough to marry Tamar.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Shua dies, Judah's Canaanite wife. And so Judah completes the days of his mourning and then travels to a town or a place called Timnath with his friend Hira the Adullamite. Tamar finds out that Judah's gone to Timnath with his friend Hira, and she disguises herself as a prostitute. And there's kind of textual evidence that she disguises herself as like a pagan cult prostitute, like a temple prostitute of some kind. Um,
It's a bad story.
yeah, it's a bad story, exactly. And so she kind of finds a place to dwell at on the way to Timnath to intercept Judah.
Yeah, and part of the reason she does this is we don't have exactly the number of years or whatever, but like she realizes that Judah's third son, Shelah, is grown,
She's been swindled.
been is grown, but she has not been given to him as a
Exactly.
wife,
Yep.
and so yeah, so
Now, in some places I've read
but
that
she has a right to that.
yes,
Mhm.
she does have a right to that as Levirate, but also in some places I've read it talks about how the father can take that Levirate position.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay, interesting.
I don't think Torah ever prohibits that.
It's kind of a tricky thing because it's her father-in-law. So the
Yeah.
Torah law prohibits that, but both of those sons are dead.
Right.
So technically, is he truly her father-in-law? And
Well, when yeah,
it's again like the Levirate thing is the brother, takes the wife of the deceased brother.
Mm.
So there's some
Yeah, and
nuance
there's
there
a
as far as the law.
in Torah, and you see this in the New Testament. But in Torah, there's sort of a hierarchy of commandments, meaning um, when two commandments conflict, you break the less important one to keep the higher commandment. Or I don't want to say less important. You keep the lesser commandment, or you break the lesser commandment to keep the higher commandment.
So the highest commandment would be to multiply and
well,
replenish the earth.
Yeah,
and I'll
absolutely.
tell you a very common rule, like a metric for deciding if there comes a point when there's a conflict, then the positive commandment, thou shalt,
Mm,
actually takes precedent
sense
over
of
the thou shalt not.
And you see that this is this situation right here
Right.
playing out. So, well, let's I guess get
let's
explain the
get
narrative behind
dig
it.
into it.
Yeah. So
So I just have So this is called, what's the name of this law?
The Leverett Law.
Leverett or Leverite.
I've
Either
heard
way.
it either
I've
way.
heard it either way.
Yeah.
I think maybe Judah like misunderstood it, and he thought he would just leave her right there.
Leave her right there. All right.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, I'm just
No, that makes sense. Thank you for
So in her end, it's very deliberate. Like
yes.
she's looking for a specific man.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. She intercepts Judah, disguised as a prostitute. Her face is veiled, and Judah thinks she's a harlot, and you know, he offers to have a goat sent to her for her services, and she says, "I want a guarantee of payment."
Yeah.
And so she takes his signet, or he offers her. She asks for his signet
Or
ring.
pledge, or,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
He pledges his signet ring and his staff,
and something else.
and a bracelet.
Yeah, and that's quite like if you read different translations, it's like all over the place.
Okay.
Some say bracelet, some say necklace, some say cord, some say belt, some say mantle, some say scarf. Um, so
I mean, it's definitely something that he's going to recognize, that other people are going to
And
recognize.
especially, let's talk about the signet ring. And I want to beat a dead horse that we have beat almost every time, like in the last several weeks. So the fact that these Hebrews, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and all their sons, these are literally priest kings. That is why Judah has a signet ring.
Well, isn't Judah at this point the um, considered the eldest son with the double portion because Reuben's given up his birthright. Simeon and Levi have both given up their birthright. So it should
Joseph
go
is gone.
right. So it should go first
Yeah,
son of the
right.
first wife, first son of the second wife. So that would be Reuben, who's defiled his father's bed, Joseph, who is presumed dead, or at least he's gone. He's not there to inherit. And then we have Simeon and Levi, who are the second and third sons of the first wife, and they have forfeited their rights. And then now we have Judah, the fourth son of the first wife.
Yeah.
And so now it's falling to him to be the birthright son.
And so he has that the mantle of kingship symbolized in that signet ring. And I wouldn't be surprised if they all had signet rings and staves and that kind of thing. But yeah, so I just wanted to repeat what we've talked about before about them all being these sacral kings and being groomed to be tribal chieftains and that kind of thing. So anyway, so Judah, accepts her services and thanks. Okay.
And everybody goes home.
Everybody goes home. Okay, so Judah uses her services, and then he sends a goat by his friend Hira or Hira. He has Hira take a goat to her to pay for her services, and she can't be found. She's nowhere to be found. So Hira asks around, and the men of Timnath say,
What you talking about?
there was never a prostitute around here. What are you talking about? Um,
I
and
just hear the music. Dun 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 dun.
yeah, exactly. This is like, what?
What is going on?
So Judah fears that this will bring shame upon him because he has, engaged in this immoral act, and she has things that are very specific to Judah and Jacob's tribe.
Right.
So this is just going to bring shame upon the whole family. And remember, they live in honor and shame culture, and shame was communal. So if a son shamed himself, he brought shame upon the whole family and the community here. So Judah's
He's having some buyer's remorse.
buyer's remorse. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So 3 months later, Judah hears that Tamar has allegedly been involved in prostitution and is pregnant. And now, how would they know? Well, why would the connection be that she'd been involved in prostitution? Well, it's because she was pregnant, yet she had no husband. She was a widow, and
Mm.
yet she's pregnant now. So the
So she
assumption
had
is
to have played the harlot.
she had to have played the harlot. So the assumption
He's
is
sleeping around
she's
for
been sleeping around.
one reason or another. Yeah.
Yep. And so Judah says, let's send her here to be burned,
Mhm.
right? We're going to burn her for her wickedness.
Which again is
Why burn?
Torah for Torah as far as the burning.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah. It's Leviticus 21:19
yeah.
says, "Daughter of a priest who plays the harlot, the punishment is is burning.
And daughter of a priest. So that means Judah is a sacral prince or sacral king, right?
Tamar,
Well, the tradition
this is
is,
the
yeah.
tradition.
Okay.
Yes, the tradition is that Tamar is a granddaughter of Shem.
Okay. So it comes from a priestly line.
Mhm.
She's not a Hebrew, but she's of the Shemite line.
Right.
And again,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And then there's arguments within Mormonism, but
She might be a Hebrew.
Who
could
knows?
very well be.
She could be
I don't know how far Eber was down
from Shem.
from Shem,
Mhm.
but yeah.
Either way, she's numbered with the Canaanites, but she still has that priestly tradition in her family.
Yes, and there's, like I said, there's arguments among Mormons, but there is a belief that Shem is Melchizedek.
Yeah.
Right.
Some have spoken otherwise, but I don't believe them.
It's impossible in the Septuagint. So, but I get that, it very well could be the case. I'll just say that.
Yeah, let's talk about that more sometime.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So Judah says, send her here to be burned for her harlotry. And Judah asks her who impregnated her. And she says, the man who
Are
owns,
you sure you want to know?
do you want to know? The man who owns this staff and signet ring and bracelet did the deed.
It's a moment.
And Judah exclaims that Tamar was more righteous or more justified than he because he never gave Shelah to her.
Yeah. Yeah, I think and he didn't because he probably thought that she was cursed. Right? That
Yeah, there was a
he
tradition of
he
that, of
thought
the Black Widow.
he thought that
Oh.
she was the wicked one or the cursed one or whatever,
With
when
the reason he
really
died.
his sons were wicked.
Oh, so he thought, she,
He is
my
the
sons
third
keep,
son to
right,
be
right.
killed by whatever's
Yeah.
going on for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he probably realizes like that he has some responsibility in for
Yeah.
raising his children to be wicked men.
Yeah.
And then in addition, his own wickedness for withholding his third son. And then on top of that, his own wickedness for going to visit a prostitute. And man, it's amazing.
These sons of Jacob are a tough case, man. I'm big on having a high view of the patriarchs, but the sons of Jacob are a tough case. I'm just gonna say, like,
Not all of them.
not all of, no, no, definitely not all of them. Joseph, Benjamin, and Judah later redeems himself.
Well, you know what?
Yeah,
I mean,
let's
he redeems himself right here when he
Yeah.
when he just because he probably, I mean, we don't know all the details, but he probably had the power
To burn her.
to just deny that
Oh,
those were his.
Yeah.
Who were the where are the witnesses? But rather than covering up his own shame, he just owns it and
Mhm.
admits it and says, she's been righteous and I have not. Yeah, and I'm actually going to read. This is a
I mean, ultimately, she's demanding the Levirate marriage be fulfilled. That's how she did it.
right,
I mean, yes, there was,
some deception involved.
veiling involved, but
Veiling.
this was this was the correct thing to do from her standpoint.
when is there not deception involved in Genesis?
Yeah.
Every chapter.
Israel wrestle with God.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to read this. This is the Targum Pseudo Jonathan. Okay. Tamar was brought forth to be burned, and she searched for the three pledges. Okay, let's see. I'm going to skip a little bit. Mm, okay, okay. So she found the three pledges and took and cast them before the feet of the judges and said, "The man to whom these pledges belong is he by whom I am with child. Yet though I may be burned, I do not make yet." Okay, see, it's not known. Like, even though it's his signet, like, he's the only one that recognizes it.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Okay, and it's just a staff and a bracelet or whatever the other third item is. So she is very, um, she does not want to shame him. She says, though the man to whom these pledges belong is he by whom I am with child, yet though I may be burned, I do not make him manifest.
Wow.
Nevertheless, the Lord of the world will cause him in his heart to acknowledge them, and will deliver me from this great judgment. Now when Judah saw them, he recognized them and said in his heart, it is better for me to be ashamed in this world than pass away and be ashamed in the face of my righteous fathers in the world to come.
Oh, wow.
Just like cut that page out and stick it right here in chapter 38.
And it is better that I burn in this world by fire that is extinguished than burn in the world to come with fire devouring fire. For measure is set against measure. This is according to that which I said to Jacob my father. Know thou the robe of my son? Right, because he came to his father and tried to fool his father with a kid, the goat, right?
Goat.
So he gets fooled with a goat, right? Because that's what he promises to pay.
Right.
So it's just like this. He recognizes this is like justice for him, right? This is according to that which I said to Jacob my father. Know now the robe of thy son. So I am now constrained to hear at the place of judgment, whose are this seal and mantle and staff? And Judah acknowledged and said, Tamar's innocent. She is with child by me. And the voice from heaven fell and said, from before me this thing was done, and let both be delivered from judgment.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. So I think Judah, like he recognized like the irony of this whole situation, that it was with a goat that he had been deceived and also that he had tried to deceive, and how he's like, uh, whose coat is this? Do you recognize this, Jacob? And then Tamar is saying, whose items are these? Do you recognize these? And he realizes, yeah, it's just better to be ashamed now than when you're standing at the judgment bar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, good on him for doing that. Yep. Um, so that's how that goes. And of course, that's an important lineage. That Judah's children with Tamar is a critical lineage. I mean, think of all
From
the
the kings
yeah, think the line of kings, exactly. I mean, you have David,
all the way
Solomon
down to
Mhm.
Jesus,
to the king.
to Yeshua.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yep. And so it says that in we're moving on to 39. And interestingly,
Well, she don't skip her twins.
oh yeah. Would you want do you guys want
This is
to
the line, right? There's the
right.
twins that are born.
Yeah, please. Oh, I was actually going to have us read 27 through 30.
Okay,
Verses 27
Okay.
through 30. I didn't mean to skip that.
you're fine. And it came to pass in the time of her travail that behold, twins were in her womb. And it came to pass that when she travailed, that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, this came out first. And it came to pass as he drew back his hand, that behold, his brother came out. And she said, how hast thou broken forth? This breach be upon thee. Therefore his name was called Pharez. And afterward came out his brother that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zerah.
There you go. And who inherits the kingship? Which line?
Perez.
Pharez. And there's, some debate about that, right? The controversy about that, isn't there?
Right.
Some bad feelings about Pharez inheriting the kingship.
Yeah.
But that's later.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I was gonna make it. There is an interesting. There's lots of interesting things about it. You can read about. I don't want to talk too much about it, but that scarlet thread is like a thread that like shows up throughout not necessarily that same thread, but um, there is scarlet threads that Rahab puts in her window and is saved by the red thread, and there's the red threads in the priest's garments, and um and of course there's the red blood like on the doorposts of the Israelites. And so I do think this red thread is a symbol of Messiah, like throughout the Old Testament. It appears quite often.
Very cool.
And it is interesting that although Zerah didn't end up being kind of the birthright child, he was a royal child. And Zerah is actually like it's because Hebrew's multi-layered. It's kind of like it's a form of Sarah, which means like in this case would be prince rather than princess.
Mm,
But it also, the Hebrew word is spelled a little differently with a zayin instead of a sheen is means seed or like child.
okay.
So, and then in the Book of Mormon, we have a city named Zarahemla.
Oh yeah. I would not have made that connection.
Yeah,
Um, that's amazing.
probably, is related to Judah's son here. Um, but
Oh, you're
Zarahemla,
talking about Mulek.
Mhm.
yes, yeah, because yeah, from Mulek,
Mulek
right?
is this issue of
Judah.
Zedekiah, who is a descendant of Judah.
That's right.
Okay.
Mhm.
So there may have been a Zerah among the Mulekites, still a descendant of Judah here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So there's an important lineage there. That's why this narrative was like put in the middle of Joseph's narrative right here, because you got to cover the lineages.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and I think it shows Judah's repentance for what happened to Joseph.
right.
Yeah.
So earlier we mentioned how the brothers saw a caravan of Ishmaelites, but they ended up selling Joseph to Midianites. But now it says that in beginning of 39, chapter 39, it says um, that Potiphar bought him from the hand of Ishmaelites. So like there's kind of a flip-flop here from Ishmaelite to Midianite back to Ishmaelite. And so my thoughts were, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts,
Yeah.
but my thoughts were maybe there was some mingling between these peoples. Midianites and Ishmaelites would eventually become Arabs.
Yeah. Those are not like mutually exclusive terms.
Right.
It's like um, it's like saying
Because
not exactly.
Midian is not, they're not related. Ishmaelites and Midianites are not related, is what I'm trying to.
Right, but Midian is a country as
Oh, I
well as
see.
a genealogy.
Okay.
So if you are a descendant of Ishmael and live in Midian,
Yeah.
then you are an Ishmaelite and a Midianite.
Okay, right. Okay. I didn't think about it from that angle. So these are Ishmaelites who had been living in Midian then.
Right, that's a very easy and not at all
Not a
a
stretch.
stretch at all. Yeah. It's like just to give another example, um Esther and Mordecai. They both say they are Benjamites. Like the book of Esther says they're Benjamites, but they call themselves Jews. They're not from the tribe of Judah. Why are they Jews?
Because they're among the Jewish diaspora.
And no, 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 no. They were taken from,
That's what I
well, they
thought.
are from the Jewish diaspora, but they were from the southern kingdom. Judah was the country they lived in.
Hmm.
So they were Jews because they lived in Judah, not because they were from the tribe of Judah. So so you can be an Ishmaelite and live in
Midian.
Midian and be a Midianite.
It's like
Do
in
you know
the
what I'm
Book of
saying?
Mormon, yes, when Lehi's living in Jerusalem, and so he is, part of the Jews.
Yeah.
He's a Jew,
Yeah, Nephi says we are Jews,
but they're
Mhm.
really
but we are from
But
Joseph.
yeah,
yeah, they're
Manasseh.
So we are we
Ephraim.
are Josephites by lineage
Mhm.
and Jews by nationality.
mhm.
Yeah.
Excellent. So Joseph, he was sold to Potiphar and he has been prospered. And Potiphar's house has benefited from Joseph's presence there. And I want to point out that although Joseph's brothers separated him from the covenant people, they could not sever him from the blessings of the covenant. Joseph was receiving these covenant blessings, which include being prospered and being able to be industrious and this kind of thing. Um,
Can I say one more thing about this?
yeah.
So cool in the in the ancient in the like the Aramaic Targums, these I mean the ones that I'm reading are English translations, but in the ancient Aramaic translations, it is so often where in Genesis here where it says like in verse 2, chapter 39 verse 2 it says and the Lord was with Joseph.
Oh yeah.
But in the Targum it says the word of the Lord was with Joseph, and the
Hmm.
word of the Lord helped Joseph, and the word of the Lord
Capital
blessed,
W.
capital W, and the word of
Okay.
the Lord blessed Joseph. And it's over and over in the Targums that the word of the Lord is the one, the thing, the person that's interacting with these characters in the scripture.
Yeah, and it's funny because Abraham is a man who literally walks with God. The ancients viewed the gods as being anthropic, like having arms and legs and
Right.
like looking like a man. And it's funny because at one point in Genesis it says the word of the Lord appeared to Abraham, and it's
Yeah.
capital W word.
Mhm.
So, and there's some views that in Genesis there's like these two powers of heaven who rule over the heavens and the lesser gods, and it's the Most High God and then the Word of God, and
And
in
his word, which is like
who's
his representation,
yes, his right
his
hand man,
his
his vizier,
avatar.
his avatar, his
Yeah.
vizier. That
Right.
God issues the commands from the throne, and the vizier is the one who goes and executes
Right.
the commands. And so, and another name for this word is the angel of the Lord.
Right. Yes.
Think about the story of Joshua before they razed Jericho, right? Uh, Joshua sees the angel of the Lord and he takes his shoes off because
Mhm.
this is like Jesus Christ, I think,
Right.
he's
The Christophany.
a Christophany. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's amazing that the word of the Lord, capital W, was with Joseph in these
Yeah.
targums. That's awesome. Okay, so Potiphar um, Potiphar notices that Joseph is prosperous and that Potiphar's entire estate is prospered because of Joseph, and so he
Hmm.
basically makes Joseph the head steward. He's Joseph is the vizier. He's the right-hand man to
Mhm.
Potiphar, who oversees all the affairs and makes sure everything is shipshape in Bristol fashion. And unfortunately, well, actually, let's read verses 7 through 20. I can grab that unless you want to.
I can read it.
Okay.
Okay.
7 through 20,
Okay.
chapter 39.
You can stop me at any time.
Okay.
And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, Lie with me. But he refused, and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath to my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? And it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her, to lie by her, or to be with her. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within. And she caught him by his garment, saying, Lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand, and fled, and got him out. And it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand, and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of her house, and spake unto them, saying, See, he hath brought in an Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. And it came to pass, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me, and fled, and got him out. And she laid up his garment by her until his Lord came home. And she spake unto him according to these words, saying, The Hebrew servant, which thou hast brought unto us, came in unto me to mock me. It's kind of like blaming Potiphar, huh? And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled out. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, After this manner did thy servant do to me, that his wrath was kindled. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison.
Now, I think you guys have some things you want to say about this, right?
Yeah.
Before that, I just want to make mention the word mock. This is the same. the same root as the word Isaac, which
Yeah.
means to laugh. Another way of understanding this is to flirt. When I believe Isaac and Rebecca are in the field walking, they're laughing together. Same word for here for mock. So when she says, a Hebrew's come into our house to mock me, there's like possibly some um romantic connotations,
Mm.
right? And so I just wanted to point that out. But what do you guys have?
Okay, what do you got?
I sent you guys the text.
No, but you're gonna share.
I'm going to share that.
Yeah.
All right, let me pull it.
While she's looking for that, I will say it's interesting that says Potiphar's wrath was kindled, but it doesn't actually say that it was kindled against Joseph.
Hmm.
And it's also interesting that like what's the threshold for executing an Egyptian slave? Like what kind of crime do they need to commit before, according to Egyptian law,
It's
or what they
probably
can like
the lowest bar
right,
possible.
right.
I mean,
I don't know. I don't
if
know.
Potiphar is the executioner, I don't
Yeah,
know
and
that
Potiphar's the head executioner, but right, that's like a common understanding of that, the Hebrew behind that, captain of the guard. So he's like used to killing people, but he doesn't kill Joseph. He puts him in prison, which is a far lesser sentence, right? And so there's at least a possibility that Potiphar knows that this is that he knows that Joseph is more trustworthy than his wife.
Hmm.
Right.
But the situation is still ruined.
Wait, and he's
He's like,
possibly a eunuch too.
right, which is partly why she was lonely, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, so he's like, well, so he's mad, but it may have been, well, I can't keep him, obviously, but I don't think he's guilty, so I'm not going to execute him, but I'll just
We got to do
send
something.
him to prison,
Yeah.
and he was mad about that, yeah. But
Mad about losing
anyway,
his best
yeah,
man,
right, right.
his
Yeah.
his right hand man.
So that's a possibility.
Okay. What do you got?
What do I have? Okay, so this can be complicated because it's again echoes of Torah before Torah, but we're also dealing with Egyptians,
Yeah.
right? So what is the law?
Well, I think Egyptians, I mean, we saw this with Abraham when he
Yes.
with the Pharaoh, that the Pharaoh knows a couple of things about Torah. One, he knows that brothers and sisters are not allowed to marry,
Hmm.
Right.
and he also knows that
Adultery.
adultery is forbidden.
Yeah.
Well, who are the pharaohs that are established according to the Pearl of Great Price?
They're
There's a
Ham's sons.
Yeah, but there's a lineage from Noah.
Correct. Yes,
Right.
right.
Noah had the law.
And yeah, they all go back to Noah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So yes, it gets complicated. So Deuteronomy 22 has a lot of stuff in it. Okay.
We'll get there.
We're working on it. Okay. So there's some complexities here with her testimony. Okay. There's nobody in the house,
Right.
right? She's married. She claims to have cried out, but nobody has heard her.
But,
So it's
like nobody corroborates
the story
that she was yelling.
He was yelling for help. And she goes to her husband. There's no second witness of any of this. It's simply what she says to him. So we'll start with adultery. Okay. The punishment for adultery, according to Torah, is death to both parties. Okay. So her stating that she cried out is claiming that this is not adulterous liaison.
Right, that it's rape.
Yes,
Right.
specifically, yes. But again, we don't have any other witnesses. Right. And so and part of this crying out, the reason that's important is because all right, so in Deuteronomy 22, verse 22, it says, if a man be found lying with a woman married to a husband, then they shall both of them die. Right, what I just said. Both the man that lay with the woman and the woman, so shalt thou put away evil from Israel. So that's establishes the situation with adultery as far as the punishments. Okay. And then there's another piece that's the next verse. If a damsel that is a virgin be betrothed to a husband, and a man find her in the city and lie with her, then you bring them both to the gate of that city, and you shall stone them with stones if they die. The damsel, because she cried not, being in the city. So the idea is that someone would have heard her crying out. Okay. And if it's true that Potiphar was a eunuch, then she's considered to be a betrothed virgin. So there's pieces to that as far as why Joseph ends up in prison, as far as, versus being put to death, even though the bar may be lower. But there's echoes of Torah keeping.
So no witnesses, nobody heard her cry out is what it comes down to.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, yeah, like you said, like you mentioned, I mean, they descend from Noah. Noah had the same set of laws. The Torah is the terms of the everlasting covenant. Noah was a party to that covenant. He and his sons would have had those same laws and passed those down too. And
Right. And also through Pharaoh's line
right.
as well at this point.
And of course, there's a lot of corruption.
Right.
The Israelite lineage is the only one that preserves the covenant and the terms of the covenant. But still, yeah, that's fascinating.
This is ultimately a loss for Potiphar.
Yeah.
But, there's some pieces to this as far as like Joseph, he's been in a bad spot, right? Like his brothers have put him in the pit and sold him and shipped him down. And he, wherever he goes, he's prospered, right? He's prospered when he gets to Potiphar's house. And then that collapses. But it only brings him to more greatness. I mean, he has to spend some time in prison, but he also there makes
Even
the
that-
best use of where he's at. He becomes in charge of prison. And so then when he's pulled out of there, then he's led to greater things. So it's just kind of a, even when you're
He's unsinkable.
let down by life. Yes, exactly. You're let down by life. There's not a reason to stay down.
Right.
And he recognizes that. And then I want to go back to one thing. It's in Genesis 15. You guys might have talked about this a while ago.
It's okay.
There was a lot in this particular.
That's good.
Yeah, but there was a lot in this particular portion as well. So this is going back to Abram before he
15?
is Abraham. Oh, yes, Genesis 12. Yes. Sorry. Okay. So this is where he's receiving the promise to have children. And let's see. Okay. So this is the Lord speaking to him. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. So Joseph is what, a great grandson of Abraham?
Yeah.
And they have this, right? So he hopefully knows.
He knows that
There's prophecy, and not just a
our
prophecy.
future is
like
to
this
be-
isn't a vision, this isn't a dream. This is the Lord speaking face to face to Abram.
Yeah, we're going to be oppressed in Egypt.
Interesting. Joseph
Yeah.
Joseph knows, hey, I'm in Egypt, and he probably remembers, oh, my great grandfather.
Abraham said we were going to be oppressed in Egypt.
Yeah, like I wonder if I'm related to this. I bet he's kind of stewing on
Am
that.
I fulfilling this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it just seems like, he's put in this bad situation, but he's always treats it as a king should, a man who knows who he is and what he should be doing, regardless of his circumstances. And so, he really does. I mean, we'll be looking forward to this in the next portion, but he really does set up a very sweet spot for his family to come down into Egypt.
Yeah.
So even though at some point there will be oppression, he creates a good thing for them.
Like he could just resign himself.
Yeah.
It's like, oh well, I'm just going to be oppressed while I'm here. But instead he
Yeah, he could have
Rises
been a
up.
slave and lived as a slave, but he already in Potiphar's house, he's risen up as the chief of staff. And then we move forward into prison where he's, been thrown into.
Yeah, and let's do that. Verse 21 says, "But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy." I just wanted to highlight that because you mentioned it.
Hmm.
But the Lord was with Joseph, one of the many times.
Targum probably says the word of the Lord.
The word of the Lord was with Joseph and
Yeah.
showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. So, um, Joseph is sent to prison, but continues to prosper as a faithful beneficiary of the everlasting covenant. And the keeper of the prisoners makes Joseph his like assistant over all the other prisoners. So Joseph is like head prisoner, as silly as that sounds. But I'm sure that comes with some benefits. Maybe extra food rations, maybe a cushier cell. I'm sure there are some benefits to being the head prisoner, right? And let's move on to chapter 40. So Pharaoh's chief butler and chief baker displease Pharaoh somehow, and they are sent to prison. And in prison, both have revelatory and symbolic dreams, and Joseph has the gift of interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm going to read verses 7 through 23, and then do you have some commentary?
Maybe.
Okay, so let's read verses 7 through 23 in chapter 40. And Joseph asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his lord's house, saying, "Wherefore look ye so sadly today?" And they said unto him, "We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it." And Joseph said unto them, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me then, I pray you. And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph, and said to him, In my dream, behold, a vine was before me. And in the vine were three branches, and it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the cluster thereof brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said unto him, This is the interpretation of it. The three branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thine head, and restore thee unto thy place. And thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand, after the former manner when thou wast his butler. But think on me when it shall be well with thee, and show kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also I have done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I also was in my dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head. And in the uppermost basket there was all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh, and the birds did eat them out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head from off thee, and shall hang thee on a tree, and the birds shall eat thy flesh from off the tree. Yikes! And it came to pass the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler into his butlership again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgat him. Boom. End of the portion, but you have commentary.
I have a tiny comment, and this is out of Jasher. It says, And the butler to whom Joseph had interpreted his dream forgot Joseph and did not mention him to the king as he had promised. For this thing was from the Lord in order to punish Joseph because he had trusted in man. And Joseph remained after this in the prison house 2 years until he had completed 12 years.
How did he trust in men?
Because he asked the butler,
He's hoping the
Oh,
yeah,
butler
butler would
get him
put
out.
a good word in for him
I
instead of
see.
relying solely on the Lord.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
Maybe he would have got out in 3 days or something.
maybe so. I don't know. It's not.
It is speaking of 3 days, it's interesting that their dreams are quite similar. And the interpretation is the similar too. Like to the butler, he says, um, this is the interpretation. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head. And then to the baker, this is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head. but
The outcome.
he used the phrase "lift up thy head" in two different senses. One is like to like restore you to honor, and the other is like
Death.
lift up your head off your body, like beheaded.
Yeah.
So anyway, just a little bit of poetry there.
Yeah. Good place for poetry, right?
Yeah. Joshua also talks about why they went sent to prison.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What does it say?
It said the Pharaoh's minister found many flies in the wine which the butler had brought,
Mhm.
and stones of nitre, I don't know what the nitre, were found in the baker's bread.
All right.
Fault.
So he didn't mix his bread well enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
so that's why they got bars low.
One thing I want to
Very
say
flies.
is that a few times in
Right.
this,
I mean, this is actually a great example. Like the what we were talking about earlier, like
Oh,
like
yeah.
an Egyptian servant slave. Like the bar is so low for execution.
yeah,
Like you
Like,
just like
yeah.
you just the bread wasn't good.
Like how many flies is too many to be put into prison over?
one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe
Anyway.
so.
Well, one thing I want to mention, and it was mentioned a few times in this portion. The Egyptians know who the Hebrews are.
Mhm.
The Hebrews are a nomadic class of like priestly tribes. They are a known people, and especially, they knew who Abraham was. Abraham was among the Hebrew people groups, and he had his own tribe. Um, and
Yeah.
Pharaoh, they knew who
And they had
Abraham
sent Abraham away with gifts
exactly.
and stuff, right?
And if you read the Pearl of Great Price and other
And with
ancient
Hagar.
yes, in the Pearl of Great Price and other ancient texts, it mentions how Pharaoh or how Abraham taught Pharaoh astronomy and mathematics, trigonometry, because the Babylonians from which Abraham came had advanced knowledge of trigonometry that predated the Greeks by a long time. But point being, how big of an impact do you think that made on the Egyptians? Huge. Like
Mhm.
astronomy and mathematics were such a huge deal to the ancient peoples.
Mhm.
And so they know who the Hebrews are, specifically Abraham the Hebrew and his own tribal legacy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that's it for this portion. So
Excellent.
till next time.
Till next time, we appreciate you. Please like and subscribe if you found value in this, and feel free to comment too. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and can't wait to see you next time.
Shalom.
Shalom.